My point is, there are so many conspiracy-brained losers out there because they've been duped into refusing to acknowledge what the truth is. Okay? We're so far removed from that. And it's the same principle behind as well, which we also analyze like it's a naturally occurring phenomenon. I do feel as though like the coverage does not match the devastation. You know what I mean? It almost feels as normalized. It almost feels as normalized as like to a certain degree. Because the thing I mean about this is that I'm not saying the media is not covering it at all. Of course it is. But this kind of would be like week-long, if not month-long news coverage. Like a lot of you are younger, so you probably don't recall Katrina. Okay? This is like a yearly event now. It almost feels like we are living in a post-Katrina world where Katrina is a yearly event, and the scale of the devastation is Katrina across multiple territories, and it's like not as big. It doesn't feel like it's as big as a story. Like you had Kanye West on the phone trying to do fundraisers on television when that was happening. That's why he had that famous moment where he was like, George W. Bush doesn't care about black people. Like that's from that. That's how big of a thing that was. And I do think now it's like, it's almost like Sandy Hook normalized. And now in that same degree, it all like, it just, you know, it holds the attention of people for like maybe a day, maybe 2 days. And then we just move on. I don't know if it's like also because like our attention span is limited. I don't know if it's because I've just been thinking about it a lot. I don't know if it's because of our attention spans that are limited now as a consequence of like TikTok or whatever, but it is kind of weird. And I don't know if it's because like, I'm not saying that this is like a deliberate effort to like normalize. It's like hyper normalization of these kinds of like climate atrocities. I don't think that, but it is strange. It is strange to me that it's like, I mean, it isn't as bad as Katrina. That was half of Louisiana's coastline that was destroyed. Bro, Asheville is gone, brother. Like Asheville is gone. Asheville, North Carolina is gone. The dam broke. It's over. You know, it's just like fully underwater at this point. It's crazy. I think it is definitely Katrina level. Yeah. Regarding coverage, bridges are rendering entire regions virtually entirely inaccessible by land. There's no power. There's no internet. I'm sure information will be scarce coming out of it from the ground versus being able to get aerial shots. Like this is like apocalyptic levels of destruction, as a chatter put it. And I don't know, man. It's just, it's really up. It is really, really, really up. And one aspect of this story that's really up is that like we are directly causing it with anthropogenic climate change. Okay. As the world heats up more and more, I guess, in the simplest terms, directly as a consequence of our emissions, things that scientists keep saying are going to happen are happening over and over again. And a big chunk of people are just like, nah, I'm different, dog. We're different. It's fine. The only the most significant, most consequential climate change policy that we have seems to be the border policy, you know? Like a more military, a more militant border, a more white nativist, more militant border policy is like the only thing that we are setting up for. Like we're not hardening our infrastructure even enough, and half of the entire political field basically denies it's even happening and is like trying to legislate away the mention of it. Like you look at Florida, it's like they're too busy being like, nah, climate change is fake. Like, don't say it. Don't say it's real, please. And it blows my mind. Fango Lives, our EV correspondent, says, easy way to explain climate change makes storms stronger. Global warming makes water warmer. Warmer water has more energy. So storms passing over that water gain more energy from the warmer water, which means there's stronger storms. We've added several billion nuclear energies to the ocean in a couple decades. Yes, that is a good way to explain it. Thank you. Yeah. That's also partially due to climate change migration. No, I know. That's why I'm saying like our border security measures is a climate change infrastructure hardening initiative. It's because there are going to be more and more like people that previously worked in like the agricultural sector that are not going to be able to work. So they're going to migrate as their economy is devastated. They're going to migrate north. They're going to come to America because there's ecological disaster there and they don't have any They don't have any money to even harden their infrastructure nor overcome the damage that climate change is causing in those regions. But what is crazy about this? What is crazy about this beyond that? I don't know. What's crazy about it is beyond the migration patterns, right? We literally have basically at this point, you know, developing nation levels of infrastructure in the wealthiest nation on the planet, dude. Like, it's wild to me that we just straight up have a situation where half of the political population, half of our government is like, it doesn't exist, so don't do anything about it. The other half is like, it does exist, but we are going to be susceptible to political pressure from the right and from moneyed interests, like in the oil and gas sector. So we're going to keep drilling, baby. We're going to keep fracking, drill, baby, drill, but like, you know, gay version, okay? And we hear you, we see you, we want to trust the science, but also we're not going to trust the science that much, because as long as it harms the bottom line of like oil and gas giants, then we're going to not trust the science that much, right? Build Back Better wasn't going to solve all this, but Jesus Christ, did Joe Manchin got the out of that bill as a Democratic senator? This is insane levels of destruction. Yeah, so you're right about that. And I do think that, like, in a just world, he would be held to count alongside the entirety of the Republican Party, right? How are immigration and disasters of hurricanes correlated? No, you're looking at one aspect of how climate change and the once in a lifetime like weather events like climate change created catastrophes occur in America. But you're failing to consider that when this happens in like Mexico, it's even more devastating. But beyond that, climate change also causes drought in a lot of places, especially in Latin America. Not only do they not have enough money to harden their infrastructure against this sort of thing when this kind of devastation occurs and it completely collapses entire ecologies, but beyond that, you have climate refugees. You have people that can no longer land because the land is no longer tenable. So what do? They migrate. They migrate further north. So you have climate refugees, right? You have climate refugees that are like, are coming to America because like at least there's still land that you can work on and make money on. So that's how millions of people are displaced, and America knows that like it's gonna happen more and more. It's kind of like the classic Chevron, Exxon Mobil having full knowledge of the carbon emissions causing anthropogenic climate change and global warming in general, and like refusing to do anything about it. And as a matter of fact, having that full knowledge and then only using that knowledge to create PR structures against it so that you can create an environment where like 30 to 40% of the entire nation doesn't even believe it's real, right? That's what they did since the 80s. They were like, oh, this is going to be a problem in the future, so let's make sure that it doesn't become a problem for us and our bottom line by creating an entire system in media to just lie to the American public and to say that it's... And that is one of the negative consequences of this reality, because you're seeing biblical levels of destruction, okay? You're watching biblical levels of destruction, and what are some Americans saying about it? How are some people reckoning with this reality? How are some people dealing with this reality? They're dealing with it by blaming like weather machines or something. And it's no different than, okay? Here's why it's no different than they're not a natural disaster. But we analyze it like it's a natural disaster. Why? Because we are completely captive to corporate interests in that regard. Manufacturers make too much money for us to ever actually deal with the that happens in this country. So in that situation, if you are going to refuse to see the reality of the matter, like at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you're refusing to see that, if you're refusing to reckon with that reality, then, you know, you're probably going to get hit with a 3-minute ad break instead of defending yourself against that ad break by subscribing. Last day of September, by the way, for $4 or for free with a Twitch Prime or by getting gifted a sub if you're lucky. Okay, here's a 3-minute ad break now. Anyway, Hurricane Katrina, Category 5 major hurricane, 1,392 fatalities, 135 missing. Hurricane Helene, Category 4 major hurricane, 121 fatalities, 673 missing. So it doesn't seem like it's as bad as Katrina. Dude, it's what are we doing? Like, It's pretty bad still, dude. That is crazy. And I think it's more than 673 missing, by the way. I think those numbers are incorrect. We don't even know the full numbers at this point, don't we? It's also where the hurricane hit. Like, it's not even the coastline in this situation. It's crazy. Okay, listen. I'm gonna run the 3-minute ad break now, by the way. Listen. You have to understand something, okay? All jokes aside, 3-minute ad break, blah, blah, blah. What I'm trying to explain here is this, okay? If you are refusing to reckon with the reality in front of you, you are going to look for alternative realities as to why things are happening. And that's why there are so many conspiratorial psychopaths out there, okay? That's my point. My point is, there are so many conspiracy-brained losers out there because they've been duped into refusing to acknowledge what the truth is, okay? We're so far removed from that. And it's the same principle behind as well, which we also analyze like it's a naturally occurring phenomenon. We're like, oh, do not look to the actual problem, which is, okay, mass arsenal of that are readily available to the public, more than there are people, but God forbid you analyze it with the actual root cause of the problem. No, we got to desperately cling on to anything and everything we can. Oh, it's got to be door control. We got to give more to the teachers. We got to do this. We got to do that. And that's why so many people at this point, now that they've exhausted all other options, whenever it occur, they now go, oh, it's because the shooter. I've imagined that the shooters and people are doing these, or this is a government. They actually are doing this because they want to do control, which never happens, by the way. Worst of all time, right? So that's it. That's why people hyper focus on like insane. This happened in Hawaii too. Oh, it must be like that did the fires. It cannot be that the brush is just simply drier than it has ever been. It cannot be like full-blown ecological collapse that caused massive wildfires. It's got to be, look at the blue cars. The blue cars didn't light on fire. Like, we are purposely making our population, and because it's like easier to control and manipulate in some ways, but also simultaneously, this is not tenable. This is not sustainable, okay? I don't know how else to describe it. And it's up. It's so up. Is so up in every way, shape, and form. Like, the way we analyze the situation is so messed up. Here, this is a Matt Christman quote, talks about it, okay? These guys that marched in Charlottesville, these are the people who are aware of the unspoken premise of the sort of zombie neoliberalism that we're living in, which is that we're coming to a point where there's going to be ecological catastrophe, and that it's going to require either massive redistribution of the ill-gotten gains of the first world, and these are the first people who have basically said, well, if that's the choice, then I choose. And they're getting everyone else ready intellectually and emotionally for why that's going to be okay when it happens, why they are not really people. When we're putting all this money into more walls and drones and things to keep them away so that we can watch them it's because we have been loaded with the ideology that these guys are now starting to express publicly. On the other side of them, we have people who are saying in full voice, no, we have the resource to save everybody, to give everybody a decent and worthwhile existence, and that is what we want. And that is the real difference between these two. And you can tell that to the next asshole who tells you that they're actually two sides of the same coin. We are the people who say we have the money, we have the capacity, we have a surplus of food. We are the people who can save everybody else. We just choose not to. And the problem with neoliberalism and the problem with like the Democratic Party's capitulation to right-wing framing on issues is that they are also slaves of the same master, the master of capital, okay? They are still deeply, they have a deeply vested interest in maintaining this corporate oligopoly, this corporate oligarchy. So they have to make some messages, like messaging differences between the Republican Party. But ultimately, that's why every 4 years you see them bouldering towards more and more right-wing framing on these issues. Now, I want to dive into this a little bit further. I want to talk about this a little bit more. In this past month alone, there have been so many issues that that a competent Democratic Party would literally be messaging around over and over again to a degree where this would not even be a close race at all. That's a control issue. The Democrats could have messaged around it. We forgot about them already. Like, it literally happened like what, a month ago, 2 months ago? Okay. Nothing. No competent conversation, no competent Democratic leadership on that front at all. Okay. What do? We're still, we're like, yeah, they're bad. We move on. Okay. Happened. And the Democrats didn't even message around it. Okay. Another thing, Republicans insanely right-wing framing on immigration. They went so above and beyond that it was gross to the average person. As I told you, this would happen with the Haitians are eating dogs and cats nonsense. Okay. That's another issue that the Republicans have completely gotten out of control on with their messaging. A competent Democratic Party should have made mincemeat out of that. Okay. A competent counterbalance to that kind of unrestricted fascist communication is supposed to sit there and say, do you hear what this person is saying? They're saying your neighbors are eating cats and dogs. They're doing like unrestricted, unfettered, okay, white supremacy through and through. Nothing. No statements whatsoever to the humanity of these Haitian migrants that are literally not even undocumented. They are documented. They are documented immigrants, and their status, these guys on the right want to revoke. They want to take that away. Okay. So that's another one. And last but not least, or two other issues. Okay. Foreign policy, neocon foreign policy back in the day was supposed to be the Republicans that pushed, more war, more devastation, more destruction, more money to the military. Okay. Israel has expanded on its NSEG and is now doing to Lebanon what it was doing to Gaza. Nothing from the Democratic Party except for full-blown unconditional support to Israel. Okay. And last but not least, now we also have ecological disasters as a direct consequence of climate change. And the counterbalance to the Republican Party is also running the drill, baby, drill attitude. Think about that. Those are four key issues, domestic policy and foreign policy, four key issues that the Democrats are supposed to literally be on the opposing side on. And yet when you look at their policy prescriptions, their answers are no different than the Republican Party. Their answers are like maybe lighter, maybe a little bit more understanding. This is a terrifying prospect for the future of the United States of America. Okay? Their key issues to a crazy left person. Yeah, dude, the entire town of Asheville, North Carolina is underwater. And that's just a key issue to a crazy left person. A crazy left person. If you have to be a crazy left person to be like, hey, I find it unconscionable that our key ally in the Middle East is like pummeling every country in the region with American tax dollars that could be going elsewhere to, I don't know, maybe harden your infrastructure ahead of time because you know ecological disaster is imminent. I don't know. I don't know what to say about like the average opinion of the average person then. Or these are key issues to a crazy left person. Key issues such as not going on a national stage and greatly accelerating the right-wing framing, the white nativist framing built on top of a house of lies. Okay. Built on it's not even shaky foundation. Okay. It's not a shaky foundation. It's just abject lies, right? Like the idea that undocumented migrants are responsible for more than natural born U.S. citizens. That's not correct. It's just incorrect. These aren't even undocumented immigrants, by the way. These are documented immigrants too, but they are being treated as though they are undocumented. Meanwhile, this is the lib talking point, by the way. Anyone that's upset about Biden and Harris's response are getting hit with not their fault. They offered aid to then say should have voted better. Yeah, that's insane, man. That's insane. Believing that climate change is real when like multiple towns are completely underwater is such a psychotic way of looking at the situation. I don't even know how to deal with it. And that is how we arrive at the viral tweet blaming the flooding in North Carolina on government weather manipulation. Okay? Because you are desperately avoiding the truth. You don't want to see the truth. You don't want to see the truth of the matter. You don't want to listen to scientists. You think scientists are gay and lame and lying to you. And when that happens, of course, you're going to find yourself in the throes of like insanity like this. Easy way to understand immigration and global warming. A single immigrant brings his body temperature to the U.S., therefore making the whole land of the U.S. warmer, more energy, and therefore making... Okay, stop joking right now. Come on. Yeah, I saw this. I saw this as well. FEMA said last week it faces nearly $9 billion of shortfall for Hurricane Helene recovery efforts. On the same day, Israel announced an $8.7 billion package from the U.S. Our tax dollars are funding Israeli war instead of the investments we desperately need here. Can't do it. Can't get Congress to do it. You just can't do it, you know? Meanwhile, here's another cue to the police, by the way, because every single thing I talk about, the intersectionality of that is in full display right here. The intersectionality of misinformation, the intersectionality of that, all of the systems that we exist under that are openly being like, you poor. Police guarding grocery stores while folks are denied the opportunity to purchase baby formula after losing everything is pretty indicative of where we are as a country. Okay? Not letting people into the grocery store. That's what they're using their funds on. Great stuff, man. That's what we're using our local funds on. So why didn't you stock up? Why didn't anyone stock up? The store has to follow procedure from the people like you from buying everything up and then suing the store because they bought bad product. Like, there are people immediately being like, nah. Oh, this guy blocked me. But let's see what he's had to say. Matt Wallace. Don't worry, guys. Weather modification isn't real. It's just a coincidence that Hurricane Helene is one of the most devastating inland damage storms in history, and the hundreds of pro-Trump counties are massively being impacted during those most important elections of our lifetimes. Yeah. Obviously, the elites would never be evil enough to create hurricanes designed to interfere with democracy. Pay no attention to the storms. 30,000 likes. We're done. We're done. We're done. You cannot come back from this, I think. How the are you living in a goddamn mountain and expected for your entire house to flood, entire town to flood? It is perfectly understandable. Here's reporting from Asheville, North Carolina from April 2002 or 2022. Okay, let's take a look about how Asheville was presented as a escape from severe climate change impact.
When it comes to climate, the mountains have always been an attractive place to live, and now even more so with climate change making severe weather events even worse elsewhere. Climate change leading to climate migration.
Weather events are becoming crazy all over the world, and there's places where they're less crazy. Asheville's fortunate to be one of those places.
Now more people taking refuge in the temperate mountains of western North Carolina. This real estate broker saying he's hearing that climate is a big reason why people are moving here.
I think people have noticed and are moving here to escape wildfires, to escape floods, to escape hurricanes, to escape droughts.
Scott Shuford is a local expert in community planning and resilience.
Our big three issues of climate change affecting North Carolina are sea level rise, which clearly we're not having a problem with that, but also heavy precipitation and periods of drought.
He says those don't affect us in Asheville as much since we're far from the coast, have the North Fork Reservoir for our water supply, and the elevation to keep our temperatures mild. Not immune to climate change, of course, just less susceptible. And he doesn't think we're anywhere near the peak of climate migration.
Bro, a random Kenyan farmer has been noticing that his goats are walking further and further for water year over year, and he understands this is a direct result of climate change. How do the hogs not understand this? I think it's understandable for most people to not recognize this because we don't have a direct relationship with nature. We don't have a direct relationship with the meat that we are consuming. We do not have that direct relationship with nature at all by design. So, of course, people don't notice these differences year over year. And as I explained already, there's a multi-billion-dollar initiative. There is a multi-billion-dollar initiative to also make people and refuse to reckon with the reality, because the reality harms capital interests. The reality harms the bottom line of the oil and gas industry. Okay? The entire world runs on fossil fuels. That's it. Yeah, it's the breaking down of the social connections of consumption caused by capitalism. A dude wrote a whole book about this. Yeah, he did. Like, things that you would previously consider insane that, your fellow Americans would believe are now becoming more and more commonplace. Do you not notice that? And if you do notice that, do you not see that as a major problem? Because I certainly do. I definitely do. I find it damaging to public discourse in general. I find it terrifying that more and more people are just like literally desperately clinging on to whatever they can, desperately clinging on to whatever kind of misinformation they can because of our abject powerlessness in the face of these systems that are churning out these results no matter what you say and do. you know, where will we go from here?
Storm's aftermath. We start in Asheville with Faith Abube. Good morning, Faith.
Yeah, good morning. 2 days without power, cell phone service, or safe drinking water for so many people here in western North Carolina. Right now, we're in historic Biltmore Village, a popular shopping and dining enclave here in Asheville, which was submerged in water. There's debris all over the place and a muddy mess left behind. This stretches for miles and miles. One official calling the damage biblical devastation.
This morning, the toll climbing after Helene barreled through the southeast. The massive storm, more than 91 people from Florida to Virginia. In Buncombe County, North Carolina, our affiliate WSOC capturing the scope of the damage from above. At least 30 people declared dead, dozens more unaccounted for.
These response teams are working around the clock to make rescues, to access neighborhoods.
The extreme floods washing away homes and bridges.
Get out of the way! Oh, God!
At one point, North Carolina DOT forced to close more than 400 roads, deeming them unsafe for travel. Members of the National Guard and relief teams from 19 states joining the search and rescue missions.
This is
the weather modification conspiracies are not new. They have escaped Twitter for a very long time. I know. The problem is, I think more and more people now believe it. That's the issue. It's getting way more broader play, in my opinion. Now, I have no data to back this up. It just feels that way, and maybe I'm wrong. But yes, they have existed for quite a while. But like things that were relegated to the Alex Jones like ham radio broadcasts are now being publicized by like many different independent media outlets that have broad reach that previously, like, a lot of this reach was stunted in the past. Okay, you had to like have a AM radio broadcast, exactly know when to tune in. You had to be really invested in the conspiracy theories. Now you can just like accidentally reach them online on your TikTok feed. You can accidentally reach them and be duped by them online on your YouTube feed, on your Twitter feed if you're on Twitter. Like it things that used to be limited to like obscure forums and AM radio broadcasts in the past are now broadly at the forefront of not mainstream media necessarily, but at least like the only other massive, very impactful way of getting information. It's just like everywhere online, everywhere.
unprecedented tragedy that requires an unprecedented response.
In Asheville, many residents growing desperate, cell service and potable water out for days.
This is apocalyptic, not just for Canton, but the entire region.
And Canton Mayor Zeb Smathers telling ABC News it's nearly impossible to reach emergency management due to the cell service outage.
To see our cell phones completely black out and not have the ability to allow people on their own accord to check on their loved ones or say, hey, look, you live near water, please leave.
Hurricane Helene rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's so inconsiderate when climate protesters block roads. It's just like, it's so inconsiderate when, climate. I'm glad that we're like arresting the only people that are like, hey guys, you should pay attention to this because it's going to f you one day. Yeah. Meanwhile, here's a major contributor to this, by the way. It's actually crazy how quickly we went from people saying Jack Dorsey brought a liberal bias to Twitter to whatever this is, and we hear nothing about it. Okay. Jack Dorsey never in a fucking million years behaved in this outwardly liberal of a fashion. Okay. In the way that Elon Musk very openly communicates like the most unfiltered, unrestricted, right-wing, far-right, sometimes neo-Nazi sentiment. And it's odd, don't you think? It's odd that, we always suspect that there is a liberal bias, but when there is an overt right-wing bias, nobody even talks about it. It's like, what are you supposed to do? There's nothing you could do about it either. Nuremberg-style trials for the oil and gas executives. Brother, there is a lot of people right now that deserve Nuremberg-style trials. Not just the oil and gas executives. When we're talking about this hurricane, yes. But then there's also the Nuremberg-style trials for all of those who are in defense of Israel's literally Nuremberg-inducing actions, Fourth Reich-style in the region, in the Middle East. Yeah, Elon Musk was even saying, the craziest part about Elon Musk is that he was propped up as this like billionaire Tony Stark style guy by liberals. Okay. This supposed billionaire Tony Stark, who's going to save the world, who's going to send us to Mars or whatever, and he's going to save the planet from climate change, right? He's got EVs. His brother's got a solar panel company, and it's and it's crazy because he was having a conversation with Donald Trump, and even then he was like repeating climate misinformation. Elon was saying climate change disinfo during that Trump interview even, and that's supposed to be the one non-idiotic position he holds. Yes. I mean, in 2017, he quit that Trump White House council over climate change, and now he's talking to the dude and talking nonsense about climate change, saying we don't have to worry until we reach 1,000 ppm. Yeah, he said climate change won't be a problem until the air catches on fire. Like, it was great, man. Yeah, until you get headaches from breathing the air, it won't be an issue. Guys, yeah, the permafrost melting is funny. It's no longer so perma, the frost. It turns out it's tempafrost. Oh my God, they're going to change permafrost to tempafrost and be like, oh, it was always, it was never supposed to be permafrost, dude. What do you mean? It's just tempafrost. You're stupid, silly ass libtard. It's just it's actually tempafrost. Anyway, that new age frost don't last as long as it used to due to woke. 90K people live in just Asheville, and there's no hope they will recover what is minimally necessary before winter. In the mountains, it gets really cold. They got snowstorms. I live in South Carolina. I'm terrified of the upstate and western North Carolina. We aren't well-funded states. Yeah. Ice is supposed to melt, stupid. Put some ice in your goddamn glass and watch what happens to it. Duh. You're just a silly libtard, and you're woke. I'm always reminded of that one congressperson who brought a snowball into Congress to be like, oh, see, there's still snow. You guys are stupid. Or tide comes in, tide goes out.
Intensifying in less than 12 hours, making landfall in Florida's Big Bend as a Category 4 storm late Thursday night with 140-mile-per-hour winds. Western North Carolina rattled with a separate rain system just before Helene crossed the border, up to 30 inches of rain in parts of the state, triggering extreme and deadly flash floods and landslides. This home in Marshall swept away in this river. In Lake Lure, homes splintered and reduced to rubble. Boats and docks piling up, towns turned into lakes, submerged underwater.
When you turn the corner and you see your community just full of buildings and trash and floating boathouses and floating homes, it just sort of takes your breath away, and it was scary.
Yeah, I mean, this has
been... Go to church and you get on your knees and you pray to an
Correct.
invisible man in the sky.
Invisible man in the sky.
You don't think that's a scam?
No, I don't.
You look
you know,
at a
and I'll tell you why.
Of a man that was built by a man?
I'll tell you why it's not a scam, in my opinion. All right? Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never a miscommunication. You can't explain that. You can explain why the tide goes in.
Tide goes in, tide goes out.
See, the water, the tide comes in and it goes out, Mr. Silverman.
Maybe
it always comes in
on top of Mount Olympus who's making the tides go in and out.
No, but you can't explain.
Can't explain it. Can't do it. All of you silly woke ass are going to talk about the moon. That's not real, ass. It's just cheese up there. And we never went there, so shut the fuck up. Everyone's talking about moon. That's not real. Excuse me, the moon. These guys think the moon is real. It's called a light bulb, okay? How else could you see at night? They turn it on at NASA every night. Everybody knows that. Silly. It's crazy because it's like, I'm gonna cry. We joke, but like, that is slowly but surely becoming the normal position, man. Like, that's becoming the normal position.
Roads sliced in half, cutting residents off from critical help.
There's probably 50 trees blocking my neighbor from coming out. I started helping them yesterday. The neighbors at the other end of the road, we got us out, but the other neighbors are trapped.
The Painter family telling us they returned home to 35,000 gallons of water in their basement and their home caked in mud.
Pee.
It's eerie. I had a pit in the bottom of my stomach the whole time.
We're stepping on mud and trying not to fall because it's so thick and slippery.
Authorities confirming 2 people in Tennessee. That number expected to climb. Unicoi County officials say more than 70 people are still unaccounted for, including Steve Cloyd. Overnight, his family telling GMA they found his Jeep and hope he was able to climb out and survive.
That is the hope. I need that big one now so I can breathe again, so my kids can breathe again. His Minnesota Vikings won today, so I want to sit here and watch those highlights with him.
It's just so heartbreaking, George. This morning, there are still hundreds of roads here in western North Carolina that are still closed, including this one here, which means a critical supplies. The roads are either still flooded, washed away, or unsafe in one way or another. And also, there are parts like this one where it's so muddy, slippery, and dangerous that it's unsafe to even walk around. George?
Well, rescue and recovery are going to take some time. Okay, Faith, thanks very much.
Good morning. To state the obvious, over the weekend, devastating storms in the south. I spoke for a couple hours with leaders yesterday affected by this hurricane, and Governor Kemp of Georgia, Governor Cooper of North Carolina, county officials in the Big Bend region of Florida, and other leaders in South Carolina and Tennessee about the broad and devastating impacts of Hurricane Helene. It's not just a catastrophic storm, it's a historic, history-making storm. The entire Southeast and Appalachia. Damage from the hurricane stretches across at least 10 states. Winds over 120 miles an hour in some places. Storm surges up to 15 feet and record flooding. Communities are devastated. Loved ones waiting, not sure if their loved ones are okay, because they can't contact them because there's no cell phone connections. Many more folks displaced with no idea when they'll be able to be returned to their home, if ever, if there's a home to return to. So we're keeping them all in our prayers, and all the lives lost, and those particularly.
Listen, Jack, we're going to give another $11 billion to Israel. And if you fucking think that that's a problem, well, then take it up with the all right, look alive. A lot of people talked about the FEMA budget shortfall. Well, to me, I say that's where the anti-Semitism breeds.
Unaccounted for, there's nothing like wondering, is my husband, wife, son, daughter, mother, father alive? And many more who remain without electricity, water, food, and communications.
Yeah, bro, look, didn't realize how many folks have no idea where Asheville and these other underwater towns are. I'm in Raleigh, 2 hours inland. Asheville is 4 hours west of me, up in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was unthinkable that a hurricane could wipe out towns this far inland and high up. That's nutty, man. That's nutty. Climate denier takedown. Funny thing happened as the WAPO tried to map out 500 million years of global temperatures and the disaster of global warming. Hi, I labeled this so the world's dumbest people would get it. Temperature is low enough for humans to evolve. Fastest temperature increase in 485 million years. From Stinky, our resident meteorology chatter. Water in the Gulf has been exceptionally warm, 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. There have been 8 Category 4 or 5 hurricanes to make landfall in U.S. soil in the past 8 years. This is as many as the past 57 years of record. Sea levels in Florida is 8 inches higher than it was in 1950. This means higher storm surges. Thank you, Stinky19, for the information. My response to that is I don't believe you, okay? Guess what, dude? Dinosaurs, I think. I don't know. Depending on the conversation that we're having, I won't even believe that they were alive. They were alive 6,000 years ago alongside Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Yeah. Don't worry about it. God will sort it out is also such a, like, devastatingly, it's a devastatingly tragic comedy almost. The irony in that statement, because, you know, God is sorting it out. It's just people then. All right. GG's, I guess.
Homes and businesses have washed away in an instant. I want them to know we're not leaving until the job is done. I also want you to know I'm committed to traveling to the impacted areas as soon as possible, but I've been told that it would be disruptive if I did it right now. We will not do that at the risk of diverting or delaying any of the response assets needed to deal with this crisis. My first responsibility is to get all the help needed to those impacted areas.
Have you considered a plant-based to help do your part? Thanks, man. No, I haven't. Okay. I have not.
I expect to.
That's crazy. Vegans, please, dude. Vegans. Even if we are talking about the enforcement of such a thing, you have to understand this has to be done at the systemic level. Okay. Please. Like, what you're describing is some of the most, like, scary aspects of government control that don't even exist in the Green New Deal that Republicans point to on a regular fucking basis. And even then, it needs to still be enforced by the government, okay? There is no world in which, like, you are individually going to fix this problem. It's just not going to happen. Bro, even mine's like, just don't eat as much cow to help mitigate your climate effect. I don't. But it doesn't, but that doesn't change, it's not going to move the needle at all, okay? Oh, unless the government unless the government moves in the direction of not subsidizing our agricultural production as much in an effort to make it so that people eat less and less meat, it's just not going to change. And also, you're talking to a chicken, or anyway, I rarely ever eat beef. Rarely.
To be there. Excuse me, I have a cold. I expect to be there later this week. I and my team are in constant contact with the governors, mayors, and local leaders. The head of FEMA, Deanne Griswold, is on the ground now in North Carolina. She's going to stay in Asheville and Appalachia region for the foreseeable future. There's been reports of over 100 dead and consequence of this storm, and there are reports of up to 600 people unaccounted for because they can't be contacted.
Really? Don't you consider the more invasive parts of government outreach the potential limits on free speech on social platforms? Wait, what? I'm still a leftist and will advocate for governments who do this sort of stuff, but it's only part I'm worried about due to some personal reasons. What? I don't know what you mean by social media outreach. I don't know how we're going to fix this, but I don't think limiting information is the solution to this problem. But I do think hardening our underlying educational infrastructure is the solution to this problem, but we're not doing that either. Like, the way I explain it is like this. I like Alex Jones as an entertainer. I can consume Alex Jones content as an entertaining figure, right? Oh, I thought you were talking about social platform, like free speech restrictions on social platform. I don't know what you mean about like meat consumption. When I say the government needs to deal with that, this has to be dealt with at the systemic level. I'm talking about the meat providers and like limiting the amount of meat that we are creating, like limiting our agricultural output, or putting additional regulatory checks on the ways in which agricultural production works in this country. But that is like one of the scariest aspects of this process to begin with. Since you said it was the scarier part for you regarding government reach, sorry for confusing you, lol. But in terms of like social media communication, I don't know what you mean by that. Hasan is not a moral person. He admits veganism is the moral responsibility. Do not get your ethics from him. Just learn politics. Yeah, I mean, I know that I don't have issues. I'm a speciesist, and I do not have issues with animal meat consumption. This conversation is getting so far off base now. God damn it, vegans. You represent, what, 2% of the community, and you literally, just stop. Just please stop.
God willing, they're alive, but there's no way to contact them again because of the lack of cell phone coverage. I've directed my team to provide every available resource as fast as possible to your communities to rescue, recover, and to begin rebuilding. In addition to FEMA, it includes the Federal Communications Commission to help establish communications capability, the National Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Department of Defense are going to provide all the resources at its disposal to rescue and assist in clearing debris. And
what were we going to say about social media, Alex Jones? Oh, what I was saying is, like, I am at least like well educated enough to know what Alex Jones is saying is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So from that position, I can enjoy his commentary purely as entertainment, like as a crazy person. But unfortunately, given the lack of education for many Americans, and given the way that it currently works in the United States of America, there are plenty of people who do believe everything he's saying and don't just treat it as like entertainment. Okay? So in that situation, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Education doesn't fix stupidity. It makes it a lot harder. It makes it a lot harder for stupidity to thrive. It's like saying, oh, well, healthcare is not going to make less Nazis. You're wrong. It will. Okay? Free healthcare will absolutely play a formative role in at least taking away a significant pressure valve from people's existences that causes economic volatility, that causes instability in their lives, that causes a pressure point where they just like look for answers and will become duped by right-wing sentiment. Anyway.
Delivering life-saving supplies. So far, that's over.
Nazis exist in places with healthcare. I know, but oh my God. The point is, you're never going to full-blown solve this issue, okay? There's rich people who are Nazis too. Look at Harlan Crow, okay? My point is, it's about limiting the impact, limiting the spread of dangerous ideology, okay? That's the point. That's the goal. That's what we should be working towards. Okay?
1,600 personnel deployed. That number is growing by the day. I quickly approved requests from governors of Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Virginia, and Alabama for an emergency declaration. And I approved additional requests for the governors of North Carolina, Florida, South Carolina, and for a disaster declaration to pay for debris removal and provide financial assistance directly to survivors. FEMA and the Small Business Administration are there to help the residents whose homes and businesses were literally destroyed, washed away, or blown away. And the federal search and rescue teams have been working side by side with state and local officials and partners in very treacherous conditions to find those who are missing. And they'll not rest until everyone's accounted for. I want to thank all the first responders and everyone who's been working around the clock.
I don't know if it's intentional or not, but some chatters completely misunderstand or just choose to not hear what you're saying in order to score some kind of gotcha on the streamer. Yeah, it's because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and that's my biggest gotcha for like 30,000 people in here. And they probably develop a little bit of resentment. Maybe they have a little bit of anxiety at the top of the hour because they know it's coming. They feel it in their heart and get worried. That chatter came to you with good intentions and you used them for a segue? Yes, because I'm a bad person. Next question. Anyway, you might be wondering, Hasan, how do I harden my security against the top of the hour ad break that's 3 minutes long? I want an uninterrupted broadcast experience. The answer is simple. For $4, you can avoid the top of the hour ad breaks by subscribing. Or if you don't have $4 for free, you can do that by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. You can also get gifted a sub. Orbital Pyramid, thank you for the 5 tier 1 gifted subs. Or if you gift a sub, Twitch also, I think, gives a sub as well. I don't know if they're still doing that. Maybe they're not anymore. It's the last day of September. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Missing belt. What are you saying? I'm not. Why are people saying missing belt loop? You have to give 5 subs minimum for Twitch to give a random sub amount? Oh, yeah. Suspiciously, the random sub amount that Twitch is giving is 1 every time.
One of the brave teams was volunteer.
They're watching. That's why they're looking at the... Anyway, Justin, thank you for the 5. Syntaxer, thank you for the 5 gifted.
Here to be there from set to travel all the way from California to North Carolina to help. But on their way, they were in a terrible car accident in Louisiana. We pray for their full recovery, but it was a bad accident. We know there's more to do, and we'll continue to surge resources, including food, water, communications, and life-saving equipment. We'll be there, as I said before, and I mean it, as long as it takes to finish this job. Let me close with this. As president, I've seen firsthand the devastating toll that disasters like this take on families and communities. I've been on the ground in many disasters areas since I've been president. Excuse me, and I've heard dozens of stories from survivors about how it feels to be left with nothing, not even knowing where or when to get back on track. I'm here to tell every single survivor in these impacted areas that we will be there with you as long as it takes. For the sake of yourselves, and your families, I urge everyone returning to their communities and home to listen to local officials and follow all safety instructions.
He's dying, bro.
Take this seriously, please.
He's dying, bro. He's dying, Brody. He's
safe. Your nation has your back, and the Biden-Harris administration will be there until the job is done. God bless you all, and I'm thinking of those that are still wondering where your loved ones are. Thank you.
We need to supplemental to help the people in the Southeast, Mr. President.
Say again?
We need to ask Congress for a supplemental.
That's my expectation, yes.
You know roughly how much you're thinking?
Not yet. This is a historic storm. It's devastating. They've never seen anything like this before. And some of them are back-to-back, 3 storms in a row. So it's really, really devastating.
Would you consider asking Congress to come back for a special session to pass a supplemental?
That is something I may have to request, but no decision has been made yet.
Do you have a sense of where you'll go when you are able to go, sir?
Yes, I told the governor of North Carolina I'd go down, and I expect to be down there by Wednesday or Thursday. It would be clear for me to go. You guys have traveled with me. You know, there's an entourage. This can be disruptive.
Is there a mistake for President Trump to be down there today in Georgia? Is that disruptive?
I don't have any idea.
On another issue,
this was wild too when Biden was asked any comments on the strikes in Yemen. Okay, we're gonna move on to the best part of the Brandon policy, of course, foreign policy. Okay, but before then, here it is. Do you have any words for the victims? We've given everything that we have.
Yes, it's tragic. Matter of fact, we're trying to get the exact number. My FEMA advisor is on the ground in Florida right now. There's a distinction between the numbers that FEMA's used and the ones that are used by the locals. So it really is amazing. You saw the photographs. It's stunning.
It really is. Such a wide area.
And we've given them all everything that we have. We're on the ground ahead of time, so we're working hard.
Are there any more resources the federal government could be giving them?
No, we've given them. We have pre-planned a significant amount of it, even though they didn't ask for it yet. Hadn't asked for it yet.
Anyway, do you think he stepped down because he actually has a terminal illness? No, dude. I don't think so. I think he stepped down because he saw the fucking poll numbers. We're gonna move on to Israel in a second because Israel is doing some Israel again. Here